Good afternoon, everyone. Rob Bonta, California Attorney General. Thanks for joining today and tuning in late on a Friday afternoon, putting off the start of your weekend. Appreciate the opportunity to be with you today to make an announcement about our 12th lawsuit that I've had to file against the Trump administration since Donald Trump was sworn in 10 weeks ago. 12 lawsuits in 10 weeks, all based on the unlawful conduct of Mr. Trump. If he complies with the law, we don't sue. If he violates the law, we sue. And we're suing for the 12th time today. Together, 20 of my fellow attorneys general and I are suing President Trump over an executive order that unlawfully revokes federal funds from several federal agencies, three of which are the focus of our lawsuit, leaving them essentially incapacitated and unable to provide vital services and support to Americans across the nation. As a result of the president's unlawful executive order, the Institute of Museum and Library Services, the Minority Business Development Agency, and the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service, those three agencies have been forced to hollow out their staffs, shutter operations, and end programs Congress directed them to provide. This is just the latest move in Trump's sweeping campaign to dismantle the federal government, leave federal workers high and dry, and deny Americans services that they rely on, and usurp the co-equal branch of Congress. A branch, I'll remind you, that's currently led by members of Mr. Trump's own party, not exactly great partnership, if you ask me, nor the Republican majority is not particularly exercising their authority as a co-equal branch of government here. But the separation of powers is in our Constitution. We will ensure that only lawful actions are taken by the President of the United States. With this order, Trump is violating the Constitution. Let's be clear about that. He's overriding Congress and the separation of powers. He's acting far beyond the scope of his authority, and he is violating federal law, specifically the Administrative Procedures Act. Trump is yet again acting as if he is above the law. Let's be clear, he isn't, which is exactly why we're suing him again. I want to talk in more detail about each of the three agencies at the center of our suit, but first I want to acknowledge that this lawsuit wouldn't be possible without my colleagues at California DOJ, especially the attorneys in the government law section. So I want to say thank you to my team members, my colleagues, for their hard work, their good work, their great work to get us to where we are today. Thank you. As I mentioned, Trump has gutted three important federal agencies: the Institute of Museum and Library Services, the Minority Business Development Agency, and the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service. Trump ordered each agency to strip its programs and staff to the studs, leaving them unable to perform even the bare minimum of their functions. In classic Trump fashion, the order doesn't consider the costs or benefits of the agencies, doesn't consider who is relying on them, doesn't consider alternative options, and doesn't analyze the repercussions of this unprecedented action. Those aren't just steps that sound nice to take. They're steps the U.S. Supreme Court has said must be taken before a federal program is cut. I want to unpack what each of these agencies does and who they serve because it matters. The Institute of Museum and Library Services ensures and expands access to museums and libraries for all people at little to no cost. Access to facts, history, information, ideas, art, culture, and inspiration. Access to stories about who we are, where we've come from, and where we can go. The agency provides funds to pay local library workers, provides professional development training, and supports library services and literacy programs. Programs like the Laura Bush 21st Century Library Program, which supports recruitment of the next generation of librarians, and programs like Museums for All, a program that provides lower-income families free or deeply discounted admission to more than 1,400 museums around the country. Last year, museums and cultural organizations in The San Diego area here in California received $1.3 million in grants, including the San Diego Zoo, the San Diego Botanical Garden, huge draws that bring tourists in and generates funds for the region. The Exploratorium and Museum of Modern Art in San Francisco also received funds. The Oakland Zoo and Children's Fairyland, the Japanese American National Museum and Autry Museum of the American West in Los Angeles all count on funds from the agency. All employ local workers, drive tourism dollars, and create unparalleled experiences for Californians and those who visit our state. In 2024 alone, the California State Library received $15.7 million from the agency to pay employees and to support tutoring for adults and children learning to read, write, and speak English, summer reading programs, meals for lower income children when school is out, and services for 800,000 Californians who are blind, visually impaired, or dyslexic. Without these funds, more than 1,000 California libraries unable to provide critical services and 23 million library cardholders unable to access critical services would be impacted. The Minority Business Development Agency supports the growth, competitiveness, and inclusion of minority-owned businesses. It supports more than 70 public-private business centers throughout the nation that provide business consultation, including centers that are specifically geared toward encouraging the growth and success of manufacturing businesses and businesses in rural areas. Here in California, we benefit from centers in Los Angeles, San Jose, and Sacramento. The role this group plays in promoting American businesses, American entrepreneurship, and the American economy is undeniable. In 2023 alone, the agency served more than 2,000 entrepreneurs who, in turn, created nearly 19,000 jobs. The third and final agency is the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service, an agency that drives economic growth and innovation by mediating labor disputes in industries that affect commerce and negotiating collective bargaining agreements. By seeking peaceful resolutions, the agency fosters stable labor relations, minimizes and prevents work stoppages, and keeps Americans working. The agency's operations represent approximately 0.001% of the federal budget, but generates more than $500 million annually for the U.S. economy. Gutting it makes zero sense. Each of these three agencies serves an important function for our states and nation, provides important services to our people, which is why Congress approved their creation and appropriated them funds to begin with, which is Congress's job. In fact, the same day President Trump issued the executive order gutting these agencies, Congress appropriated tens or hundreds of millions to each of them, an appropriation the president signed. Then he turned around and demolished them, inflicting immediate harm to California and states across the nation that rely on these agencies to provide services of vital importance to the public. A direct and illegal defiance of Congress's order. We also can't ignore the duplicity of Trump promising to create jobs, more jobs, while firing workers left and right. Because of Trump's unlawful executive order, the Institute of Museum and Library Services has been forced to put 85% of its staff on administrative leave. The Minority Business Development Agency has been forced to cut its staff from roughly 40 to just 5 individuals. Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service has been forced to slash its staff from roughly 200 to fewer than 15 individuals, not to mention the hundreds of library and museum workers that will be let go and the entrepreneurs who will have to shutter businesses and fire their own staff. Lots of jobs being lost because of this conduct from the Trump administration. Since President Trump took office, he's rampaged through the federal government, slashing critical programs and taking down any department or employee who he believes stands in his way. First, he came for USAID, then the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, the Presidio Trust in San Francisco, the U.S. Institute of Peace, the Department of Education, and more. Now, this. Centers that drive business development, entrepreneurship, and economic opportunity, a service that keeps American commerce chugging along libraries and museums that promote the humanities, civic and community engagement, and thought leadership that makes sure we know and study our history, the good and the bad, that enable us to evaluate, question, and speak truth to people in power. It's not hard to guess why Trump would want to sever access to that. It's a move ripped right out of the authoritarian playbook. This 12th lawsuit also comes right on the heels of another we filed earlier today, this morning, challenging Trump for unlawfully terminating NIH grants and failing to disperse existing grant funds for medical and public health research without any reasonable explanations. I'll add that NIH funding creates over 50,000 jobs and billions of dollars in economic activity. It supports research that saves lives, improves public well-being, and creates new economic opportunities that support a vibrant economy. When will Trump's rampage stop? When there's no one left besides the president, Elon Musk, and Doge? We can't allow this to continue. My colleagues and I won't allow this to continue. No one is above the law, not even Trump. With today's lawsuit, I say to our president once again, I'll see you in court. Before I open it up for questions, I do want to thank the individuals on my team who worked around the clock to make today's action possible, the dedicated public servants who've given their careers to standing up for Californians and Americans, upholding the rule of law. Jay Russell, Anya Bin-Saka, Thomas Patterson, Alex Fish, Christina Bull-Arndt. Thank you very much, and happy to take your questions.